What, are you ready? Okay. Call to order. Mark, would you read the roll call?
Yes, Chairman. Commissioner Meter,
Present.
Commissioner Nicarata,
Present.
Commissioner Roderick,
Present.
Commissioner Sternquist is absent, Commissioner Vincent, Chairman Marson.
Present.
Quorum.
Okay. The first item of business is approval of the prior minutes of the Plan Commission from July 18th, 2024. Do I have a motion to approve?
I have a motion to approve.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay. Okay.
Commissioner Meter,
Yes.
Commissioner Nicarata,
Yes.
Commissioner Roderick,
Abstain, I wasn't at the meeting.
Commissioner Vincent,
Abstain, I was not at the meeting.
Chairman Marson.
Yes, I was at the meeting.
Minutes approved.
Okay. All right, I'm going to read a short announcement before we get started with the meeting. We have now reached the public hearing portion of tonight's meeting and the code update process. On the agenda is consideration of a comprehensive development code update and associated zoning map changes. The village consultant, Camaros, and the village staff will provide a presentation of the proposed changes. During that time, members of the Plan Commission may have some brief comments or questions. When the presentations are complete, we will then open it up to the public comment. We would like to thank all of you for joining us tonight, and your feedback this is most important to us. We request that all in attendance conduct themselves in a courteous and civil manner. Please, no applause, cheering, or other distractions. Any individual providing comments shall address the Plan Commission from the podium and state their name for the record. Louder. We request that the individuals avoid making repetitive comments. Multiple individuals speaking on the same issue should coordinate their comments to the extent possible. In order to promote an efficient hearing, including selecting a representative to speak on behalf of a group where appropriate. All statements by the public will be given under oath. We would like to swear in at this time anyone that is planning to speak. I was going to say stand, but we've got too many. If you want to raise your hand, I'll just swear everybody in. Do you swear to tell the truth in the testimony you are about to give in this matter? If so, please say, I do. I do. Okay. In addition, if you haven't signed in, we'd like you to sign in on the request sheet. I don't know if any of you did that already, but we'd like that. Thank you, and we'll move on. Mark, can you introduce the agenda item then?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The agenda item today, Plan Commission Case 2025-01. The village is requesting consideration and approval of a comprehensive development code update pursuant to Section 1260.05 amendments of the Village Code. This comprehensive text update is to Part 12 of the Village Code as it pertains to the village's planning and zoning code. In addition to the above referenced comprehensive text update, the village requests certain zoning map changes that result from the comprehensive text update. The specifically impacted properties involve village-owned property, such as the Captor Center parking lot, 8917 West 123rd Street, and the Sluice House, 12309 South 90th Street. The Metro Station and Metro parking lot, 8100 and 8300 West 123rd Street. Centennial Park, 12216 South Wilcook Road. Village-owned property at the southwest corner of 86th Avenue and 123rd Street, commonly known as 8643 123rd Street. Village-owned property at the northwest corner of 86th Avenue and 123rd Street, noted as 12210 South 86th Avenue. The Carlson Asphalt property on 80th Avenue. The post office property on 80th Avenue. property commonly known as 11941 South 80th Avenue, which has a Palos Heights mailing address. This is located on the east side of 80th Avenue, north of the railroad tracks. Various incorporated Forest Preserve properties throughout the village. The Oak Hill Cemetery property on 131st Street. The Mid-Iron property on Bell Road. The Ludwig property on 131st Street. And the Cog Hill property off of Archer Avenue. The Mid-Iron, Ludwig, and Cog Hill properties all have Lamont mailing addresses. What we'll do is we'll turn it over to Arista Strungies. She's our consultant on the code update project from the Camiros firm. Arista is going to walk through the bulk of what is under consideration tonight, which are some of the text changes. When she's completed her presentation, as staff, I'm going to walk through the zoning map-related matters, and then as noted, after that, we'll open it up for public comment. Thank you.
Arista, before you start, I just want to make a statement. When we gave out the list of properties to the public, we had included the Carlson or anything on M1. We're not going to deal with M1. That's been pulled. So if anybody's here for the Carlson property or the post office, whether you're the owners or residents or an attorney, we're not going to deal with it. So you don't have to sit here if you don't want. It's not going to be on, it's not.
There's one other omission that is included in the staff report. Planning property. It is not in the list that you just read.
Oh, I apologize. That is for consideration. I did forget to include it on the agenda here, but that is for consideration. And then regarding, I'll speak to it in more detail on the zoning matter, but the village did have some concerns expressed to them from the property owners and also several residents near the Carlson property and post office property. And the intent of this process that we're working on is primarily the code update. So the thought that staff is going to suggest is regarding rezoning property, those specific properties would constitute a more substantial rezoning that should, if the village were to consider rezoning those properties, should be evaluated in a more detailed process, more thoroughly separated from the rest of this text update that is being contemplated. Thank you. The Carlson Asphalt property and the post office. You're welcome.
Yeah, we couldn't pull it off the agenda because it was published. So we have to make a statement like this that it's off. So if you're here for that, for anything with the M1 district, we're not going to discuss it.
Turn it over to you, Arista.
Okay, Arista.
Hello? Keeps flashing. Okay, I think it's working. Okay, so thank you all for coming tonight. Really appreciate a turnout like this. My name's Arista Strunges. I am the principal and partner at Camiros. We're a zoning firm located in Chicago, Illinois. Been there for over 25 years at this point. The firm's been around for 40, worked with a lot of different Illinois communities as well as cities across the country. What I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to do an overview of kind of everything that is in the zoning code, and then as Mark indicated, Mark will come up and kind of explain what's going on with the map. So one of the first things is, how did we get here? So this is a process that's been going on since 2003. It began in May of 2003. I met with Mark, I met with staff, took a tour of the village to really get a sense of kind of the development that's there. We conducted a series of stakeholder interviews, which are just different folks that have, kind of some knowledge of what's going on with zoning, in June of 2023, all of which resulted in a technical review report, which was released on January 2024. We did a public presentation of that in January of 2024, and what you see there really set the direction for where these revisions were going. So kind of about a year back, a couple years back now, we already had started talking about the directions we were going to go. The next part, hold on, give me a minute. All right, I can screen, so, I think it's, okay. So, following that, we started drafting the code, working with staff, created an internal draft that we did a series of reviews on because I don't claim to know everything and we need to talk to the folks that work with the code every day. And that was then released, that was called Public Draft 1.0, released on the website in February of 2025. And then we began a whole series of review sessions with these, microphone hates me.
Why don't you use the one at the end?
Yeah, I think I'll just switch out. Yeah, this one is not, it's not even turning on anymore. All right. Okay. All right, we got, oh geez. Okay, so in February of 2025, Public Draft 1.0 was released, and we began a whole series of review sessions with the Plan Commission that are here tonight, as well as with the ZBA. And it really took us through a whole series of sessions. We were in this room a bunch of times, and as you can see here, March, April, May, June 2025, we did a whole kind of lengthy review sessions, going through the whole document, discussing key issues. Took all the comments that we had agreed upon back, made a red line edit based on those joint committee meetings, which came out in August of 2025. Then we came back and kind of looked at and confirmed those edits of Public Draft 2.0 in September 2025. And really, these were a lot of these issues have folks on both sides, but we needed to come to a consensus, and that's what's reflected now, what you see in the public hearing draft. So the public hearing draft, obviously it's been released, you all know about it because you're here, and so really just want to make sure that we kind of go over everything that's in there. The public hearing will take as long as it takes. Obviously, I think it might be extended for another meeting, and then following that process, it goes through adoption. So what do we see in the code? I think a lot of it, you see a kind of reorganization, kind of a cleanup of the structure to make it a little bit more user-friendly. Zoning's technical. It's a series of laws and regulations, so we really need to kind of implement what we can to make it easier for folks to understand what they can and can't do. So you see a more graphic orientation, you see a lot more definitions, you see clear measurement methodologies for how you do things like lot width and building height, and you see a new structure that organizes things in a more logical manner. So it begins with the first two, 1260, 1261. These are introducing the zoning code as a whole, providing some applicability standards, general definitions, again, all those different terms of measurement. And then we go in kind of the heart of the beast, which is the districts. And you see that in sections 1262 through 1266, a listing of all the different districts, as well as the uses that are allowed within those. Following that, it moves to site standards, where you're kind of looking at everything else that happens on the site outside of the principal structure and the principal uses. So things like accessory structures, parking, signs, things like that. And then finally closing out in 1272 through 1277, a whole series of administrative provisions that kind of work through zoning approvals, different permits, who does what, how do I do it, what happens when I've done it, really explaining all of that. So one of the things you'll see here is we've taken a more modern use approach. This is really looking at tailoring the types of uses that are allowed to the form and the purpose of the district, making a much more clear use structure, utilizing something called a more generic use approach, still calling out some of those select uses of concern, but making them a bit more manageable. Making definitions for every one of those uses. That's what's really key here. Every one of those uses, when you see the table, has a definition associated with it. Some of these uses have more impact, so we've added in some use standards that go along with those, and we address the three types of uses that occur within a zoning code. That would be a principal use, an accessory use, or a temporary use. So now when you look at your use structure, what you see here is a table. All the different uses allowed are listed down the side, all the districts are listed across the top, and what you see here are the different permissions. So a P indicates a use is permitted, may still have standards, but it's a permitted use. An S is special, which means that it requires a special use approval through the process here in the village, and a blank means it's not allowed within that district. Those things you see down the side there, those are references to standards. Like I mentioned, some of these uses have some impacts. We want to put some standards in place to control those. So the first set of districts we want to talk about is the residential. Obviously, the largest district here in the village is currently the R1A. It's now called just the R1. This is the 1 acre lot size, very typical residential development. If you followed us kind of from way back when we looked at the tech review, we did a lot of analysis of kind of the lot patterns that are here in Palos Park. And what we really saw here is that when you get to the kind of the older east side of the village, you've got a whole series of lots that already exist that are here that are less than that 1 acre lot size. So we did a lot of analysis. If you look back at previous drafts or if you look back at things like the technical report, we were calling them traditional lots. Their names now changed to legacy lots. And what this does, it allows for existing lots, can't make new ones that exist that are legal lots of record, that are under 43,650 square feet, but 20,000 square feet or more are considered a legacy lot, and it takes them out of what we call non-conforming status. So it just makes it easier to develop that lot. We've got standards associated with those lots that are tailored a bit more to their size. So you see here, 100-foot lot width, a little bit smaller than the typical R1, slightly smaller setbacks in place as well, making sure that if you've got two lots put together that are equaling an acre or more, that you're not eligible for this. We're very clear, this is for existing lots that are here. We also have the R2 district, formerly the R4, just cleaned up the numbering there. This is the townhouse and multifamily district, currently exists. All development there requires a PD or PUD, which it does right now. So simplification of a couple of the standards. The front setback looked at averaging the two lots on either side, kind of some contingencies if the lots are irregular, maintaining that 100-foot limit that you currently have in the code so that setbacks don't have to get too big. Revised how corner side setbacks are measured, looked at the interior side setbacks, so revised that to 15% of lot width or 30 feet. Looking at the rear setback, this is for the R1 district, again, 50 feet, and then set building height at a 35-foot maximum, which is current, but eliminated stories. So then you see for the minimum dwelling unit total floor area, we maintain the 2,200 square foot for the R1. From the comments I've seen coming in, I know this issue is a big one. This is the legacy lots, what we've said there, that the minimum dwelling unit, the way that it's currently proposed, would be 500 square feet, just acknowledging their slightly smaller size. Building coverage and... It's not that much, it's not that small. The slightly smaller size of the lots, not the dwelling units, because the lots are smaller. The lots are half the size of the current R1, so making some provisions for kind of smaller homes that may exist on these smaller lots. We've added in building coverage and impervious surface limits. These are new zoning standards, sort of new. They were really living in subdivision, brought them over here into the zoning ordinance. So you see here the 35% building coverage that's current. It just lived in subdivision for some reason. And then created a new standard on impervious surface that scales to the size of the lot to really prevent overpaving of lots and manage things like floodwater and stormwater runoff. And then eliminated the FAR from the subdivision regulations for residential development, relying again on things like building coverage and impervious surface. So the updates to the business districts. And you've got the B1 and the B2. We've got some new purpose statements in place. This was written before the announcement at the meeting, so the M1 district that's on here, I'm going to coordinate with Mark about how we integrate it back in, but just pretend that line's not there. Just ignore it. You have two districts, the O and the S1 PUD. They're not used. They're not on the map, so those were eliminated. And then we provided a little bit of flexibility for the B1 and the B2. for allowing only one type of by right development. This would be on a lot, and there's not many of these here, a lot of 20,000 square feet or less. Could be by right if it is not abutting a residential district, if it is not located across the street from a residential district, and if it is only one building. So it has to meet all three criteria before it can develop without having to have a PUD. Otherwise, all development, for the most part, the majority, will be by PUD in the B1 and the B2. Building height here, again, set at 35 feet, maximum building height, really eliminated the stories. Created some very basic setbacks for the business, 25 feet for front, corner, side, and rear. An interior side setback at 15 feet. And some very basic design standards added for these areas that look at things like facade articulation. So there's a little bit of movement in that facade so that there's some transparency, there's windows on that ground floor, and some limited restrictions on the types of building materials that can be used. Okay. The special purpose districts, two are new, one's not that new. There's an open space district. This is really intended for areas like parks, the forest preserve, cemeteries. An institutional district, which is really replacing that public lands sub-district of R1A, really intended for governmental uses, kind of where we're sitting right now. Would have potentially addressed the post office, but again, off the table. But the metro station parking lot. And then finally, the Western Growth Area. Really, and Mark will speak to this a little bit more, this is really just an acknowledgement of something you already have. This has been adopted through plans and policies. It describes where it is, describes what it needs to do. All we've done is kind of integrated the use permissions into the matrix and made it very clear. It's implementing those plans. Everything that happens there is by PUD.
Real quick, Arista, I do want to throw out, not everyone, so you referenced this with the B1 and the B2, like if it's adjacent to residential, the PUD. Not everyone may know what a PUD is. A PUD is a plan unit development. Essentially, it is a process by which any development on the property requires going through a public hearing process. So if a development is required to go through a plan unit development process, there is a required public notice. We would have a meeting in this room here with the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission would make a recommendation and the Village Council has final say. So that is a process by which that development would need to go through, and there are standards written into the code. And in the case of the Western Growth Area, an entire Western Growth Area master plan, that those would need to comply with. And that is different than just, if property zoned, say, single-family residential, and someone comes in with a building permit for a single-family home, if they meet the setbacks, they just get their permit. Again, it's different. A plan unit development requires that public hearing process, Plan Commission meeting, and final Village Council approval. So again, just so that we are all aware of what a PUD is.
Thanks, Mark. I was thinking that I should stop and explain it, but you beat me to it, because I kept saying PUD, but I assumed everybody knew. So really, when you're looking at it, kind of when I explained back here, PUD, larger developments, everything in the B1, B2 would typically be by PUD unless you meet some very, very specific standards for a smaller lot of 20,000 square feet or less. And then the Western Growth Area, all development there is by PUD. Anything you want to do has to go through that process that Mark described and comply with the already adopted Western Growth Area Master Plan. So site standards, these are, again, kind of as we talked about, kind of the main thing is the districts talk about the principal structures, where they can locate, the uses, the principal uses you can have. This is kind of everything else that happens around it. So some just regulations of general applicability. How many principal structures can you have on a lot? If you're single family, that'd be one. Lots, how are they accessed from a public street, not putting structures or buildings in public utility easements, site visibility, so corner site visibility requirements. And then a number of different things that actually already exist, but we wanted to make sure people had a heads up that they needed to go to other parts of the village code. These include things for flood hazard requirements, exterior lighting, as well as the fence regulations. We have not modified those. What you'll see there is basically a cross-reference to a different section of the village code. One of the things we did move was refuse containers, which are dumpsters, not your garbage cans, but just dumpsters, large recycling containers. Move those standards from the village code into the zoning ordinance where they're more appropriate, and that we're more specific in their location and their screening. We had a whole series of permitted encroachments. These are really architectural features that we allow a certain amount of encroachment into a required setback. They may not be allowed in all setbacks. They mostly are limited to a certain amount that they can encroach into a setback. So if you think about this, it's something as you see here, something like a bay window, a maximum of 5 feet into that setback, to allow for more flexibility and architectural creativity so that you get nice-looking homes, nice-looking buildings without being too restricted by the setbacks. Again, these are very minor, very typical allowances that communities in Illinois and across the country have. And really just meant to allow for those features. Where you see a yes, it means it can encroach. Where you see a no, it means it has to meet the setback. It can't go in that yard. We also cleaned up the accessory structure controls. Currently, you have this kind of confusing process between what's accessory structure, what's an accessory building. We made it all one thing that says it's accessory structure. We put some general regulations in place for these. If it has a permanent foundation, it's got to be 10 feet from the building. It can't exceed the footprint of the principal building. There's a limitation if you've got something that's got kind of metal panels on the outside, how big that can be. They're not allowed in the front yard unless the code specifically says they are. They've got to be located 10 feet from an interior side lot line, 15 feet from any other lot line. There's a whole series of height regulations based on what yard you're located in. And then the maximum number is really controlled again by that dual pair that we talked about earlier of maximum impervious surface and building coverage. In some cases, there are some specific accessory structures that needed some very kind of specific controls on them, separate from these general regulations. You'll see a whole list of those kind of organized in a table with some specific standards tied around them as well, which you'll see here, just an excerpt of the table. So you can see, things like ham radio equipment, kind of what those controls are, things for apiaries, prohibited in the front yard, allowed in the others. So there's a whole series of standards for these specific types. And again, just an excerpt. We don't end at C. It goes all the way down to other types of structures. We've created a comprehensive off-street parking standards. What you'll see there, you see that table. That table directly relates back to that use table. So if I know what my use is, I know what parking requirements are required. So that's the tie between those two sections. We talked a lot about in that section about parking space and parking lot locations, allowances for a parking pad for two-family and single-family homes, how you would design a parking lot or a parking structure, which are all basically PUDs within the WGA area. If you look at the use table, that's really the only spot. Things like that would be allowed as a standalone use. Some parking flexibilities, allowing people to share parking lots, allowing cross-access. And again, that's for business uses. That's not really looking at residential uses and parking flexibilities. We did have a very long discussion regarding commercial vehicle outdoor storage, really looking at what types of vehicles could be stored outdoors. What we came to would be one passenger size vehicle. As you look at those standards, what you see in there is a definition of what is a passenger size vehicle. That can be parked outside. All others would have to be within an enclosed space. And some standards related to recreational vehicle outdoor storage as well. The parking requirements, again, like I said, it's tied back to that use table, so you'll see that relationship between the uses. I have this use, this is my parking requirement. And we cleaned up the GFA calculations. So in this case, what we're doing, we're using the total area of the building. So if you see these numbers have changed from one code to the other, it's because we've simplified the way it's calculated without having to determine what's excluded, what's included. Basically just looked at the whole building. We also looked at landscape, kind of closely related to parking as well. What development types would require a landscape plan, and it's really looking at things that are more intensive. Multifamily, non-residential, parking lots, parking structures, part of the plan unit development process, and what actions would trigger your requirement to bring in a landscape plan. It's basically if you're doing a lot of stuff on the site. You're building a new building, you're building any kind of new parking, these would trigger you to come in for a landscape plan. There's also a whole series of things that talk about the type of landscape so that we get good, healthy landscaping installed. So there's installation and maintenance standards related to that as well. So you'll see there, things like parking lot perimeter, parking lot interior, things about building foundation landscape, buffer yards, two alternatives, the first requiring a berm in the back of the property. And again, these buffer yards are where incompatible uses meet when lot lines are together. So your rear yard or your side yard, this is where these would come in once it's triggered by the code. So if it's non-residential abutting residential, you're going to have to do a buffer yard. So you've got a berm here, an alternative with a very low wall but more significant plantings. We also updated the sign regulations, incorporated the sign code into this new zoning code update. You'll see here the organization, what is the purpose of the sign code, what are the general standards, how is illumination controlled, what types of signs are prohibited, what type of signs are exempt from requiring a sign permit, generally very small things like a real estate sign, and then what signs require a permit. What's very important, a number of decisions have come down through the U.S. Supreme Court regarding content neutrality, so we can't talk about anything that goes on the sign, any of the words, any of the colors, the amount of the content there. We can't control any of that anymore. It's deemed a violation of the First Amendment. So we addressed the full range of permanent signs. So again, you're looking really at areas of business uses and areas like the Western Growth area. So this is really where this is coming into play. What types of signs would be allowed, kind of working off what currently is allowed, but matching it more to the form and the scale of each of these districts. So you see everything here, awnings, canopies, drive-through signs, ground signs, off-premise permanent signs, very specific location one on that. There is one location for it. It's a carryover from the current code, and then wall signs. Finally, we've done the zoning administration, really updated it like I talked about, who does what, how do I do it, what happens when I do it. So you see here a listing of all the different powers of the different administrators of the zoning code, including the zoning administrator, who is the Commissioner of Public Property and Building. You see the various approvals. Many of these are very common. You see here amendments, special uses, variances, site plan review to make sure as development is coming in, it's being reviewed administratively by staff. And many of these are basically current things and typical to any community of similar size in Illinois that they would have. We took the plan unit development, which Mark explained so well, and moved it into a separate article. If you look at yours currently, it repeats different things over and over and over again in the different sections where it pops up. We consolidated all of that, cleaned it up, made it a much more clarified process. I made it clear with the requirements, especially if you're doing a residential or a commercial or a WGA, PUD, what requirements you're required to meet. So, like we said, a couple of updates to these, really just to kind of clarify and streamline. Remove limitations on types of variances. The thing about a variance is you don't know what it is, so kind of limiting what you can ask for really doesn't quite work. We added that new site plan review process I talked about. Again, this is an administrative process that folks would be required to go to ensure that they're complying with the zoning ordinance. So everything from townhouse and multifamily development to additions to those types of uses, parking lots, drive-throughs, and the obligatory wireless telecommunications facilities. There's a new temporary use permit, ties back to the temporary uses. A new zoning interpretation process, which is administrative. It's already been happening. This code just codifies it. And a new reasonable accommodation process. And this is something that's getting built into more and more codes. It's directly related to things like the Americans with Disabilities Act and various things of that nature from the state of Illinois that basically allow for some modifications based on physical disabilities that are occurring. And then finally, kind of the last couple things. It clarified the different types of nonconformities. These are things that legally happen but no longer conform to the code, whether we did it or some other code update did it, but what are the rules for each of these? So we wanted to make sure that we laid it out for the different types that happen, uses, structures, lots, signs, and then included the recent amendments for Cog Hill and Ludwood Farm. What you see here for structures, the one thing that we've added for single family, that if it is destroyed, if something happens, there's a fire, tornado comes through, because it come through now, I guess. If the tornado comes through, house comes down, you have up to a year to obtain the building permit to rebuild. Otherwise, you've got to conform with any of the requirements on the lot. Some flexibilities, we expanded some permissions for existing homes if they want to expand, but can meet every other aspect of their development with the exception of, say, they're a little too much into the rear yard, a little too much into the interior side. They can continue along that same plane without requiring a variance for that, but they have to meet everything else that the district requires, things like height and coverage and all of that. There are some limitations that exist that still need to be far from the lot line, and I believe some of this is based on currently, the code has this in place now, correct, Mark? I'm going to say yes, I think it does. I remember having this discussion. The expansion of a wall that's non-conforming in the...
The current code allows for a vertical
Right.
addition, but does not allow for that horizontal addition, and that's what's in a proposed change.
Yeah, that's the new change. I knew it was something like that. So this is just building on something that already exists within the code. And then finally, if you picked up the document, any of these documents and looked at it, you'll see there's some very minor updates to the subdivision regulations. Really what was updated there is anything that was a zoning standard was moved into the zoning code. We updated things to reference the correct plans, to reference the WGA, and probably the only significant change in there is prohibition on the creation of new flag lots. If you look at this, what you'll see is your current text with red line changes in there. We did not rewrite anything, so you can see kind of what was added, what was deleted. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Mark to talk about the zoning map.
Hook in over here. Good evening, everybody. Mark Herman, I'm the Director of Community Development here with the Village of Palos Park. As noted, I'm going to kind of briefly walk through impacts to the zoning map as a part of the code update process. This online mapping application, which is available online, and just for the record, one were to visit the Village of Palos Park website. Under the Building Department, we have Development Regulations Code Update section. So for those of you who may not have had the opportunity to review the PDF of the draft code or previous versions of it or anything that we've talked about, it's all online here. This map is the village's current zoning map with one exception, which is I've highlighted in these areas with the pink dashed lines and slight pink hue to them. Those are the specific areas where there are some proposed zoning map changes. I'm going to start out west and kind of then move my way east. This is Bell Road, 131st Street, McCarthy 123rd, Archer Avenue, just so we can all orient ourselves. The village has already created the western growth area. The village created text that's in our current code and adopted a Western Growth Area Master Plan back in 2021. What we're just looking to do is the areas that are in the village's Western Growth Area, which are areas annexed into the Village of Palos Park west of Bell Road, we're looking for the map to just have it designated that those areas are in the Western Growth Area. So it's an overlay zoning district. So an overlay means it is over the main zoning. So currently Cog Hill, the Glen Eagles remnant strip, the Ludwig property and the Mid-Iron property have R1 single-family zoning, and we're looking to just apply the western growth area overlay on top of that, just to make it clear to which properties these western growth area regulations apply to. That's that proposal. As we move our way east, we'll note that there are some areas in the village that are forest preserve properties. Now, the bulk of the forest preserve properties in the general area are unincorporated, but there are some pockets of forest preserve properties that are annexed into the village of Palos Park. This includes this property on the south side of McCarthy Road that starts a little bit east of Will Cook and goes out west toward Bell Road. There are some forest preserve properties on LaGrange Road, just north of 9 acres. There's some forest preserve just west of us here on the south side of 123rd Street. There's some forest preserve here on 126, and a small bit of forest preserve in these two little pockets off of 131st Street. Now, the way our zoning map currently shows those properties as being unzoned. However, Section 128608 of the code actually reads so that property that is annexed to the village has R1A zoning. So technically, all of these forest preserve properties have R1A zoning. As part of the code update that Arista had mentioned, we're looking to create an open space zoning district. Now, to what extent the uses are found in the use table for the R1A, they can be modified. That's part of public hearing. But what we're looking to do is apply that open space zoning district to these forest preserve properties. Additionally, Centennial Park is located here off of Will Cook Road. We're also looking to put open space zoning on that property. I'm going to zoom in a little bit here. Oops, that's a little more than I wanted. So again, forest preserve here off of LaGrange, off of 123rd, 126th, and again off of 131st. Now, additionally, one interesting fact is that while Village Hall, where we all currently are, has R1A public lands designation now, which with the code update will become that institutional zoning district, the village's parking lot does not have the same zoning, nor does the property just south of that, which is the sluice house, we call it, which is used for government purposes as well. And so that's these properties here off of 90th Avenue, just south of Village Hall. We're looking to apply that institutional zoning. So with the code update, we're looking to give those properties the institutional zoning to match what would be the rest of this area. Village Hall, the rec building, the fire district, Village Green, and the library. And so we'll include the parking lot and the sluice house, and that all have institutional zoning. So we move a little bit further east. We have these two vacant properties off of 86th Avenue there, just across the street from the Plush Horse. And currently the property on the southwest corner has the R1A PL, so that would change to the institutional zoning. However, given its use, it's open space right now, possible recreational use from the village, we're looking to put that open space zoning district designation on that property. Similarly, the property on the northwest corner, zoned R1, R1A, it's a vacant lot. We believe it to have wetlands on the property, so it would be very difficult to develop, but it's owned by the village anyways, so we're looking to put open space zoning on that property. Moving further east, we have the Metro Station parking lot. It's owned by the village. Currently has R1 zoning. Again, it has a zoning designation on it that's intended for single-family use, but it's owned by the village and used as the commuter parking lot and the Metro Station. We're looking to apply that institutional zoning to that property. So then, now we are off of 80th Avenue, and some of you may be here regarding the M1, and we've alluded to it already. There's actually 3 pieces of property in the village with the M1 zoning, and I alluded to this when I introduced the item, introduced the agenda here. There is this small remnant triangular piece just south of Frangella's on the east side of the road. And so Frangella's and their parking lot has B2 zoning, except for this triangular piece of property, which is approximately 2,700 square feet, 2,700 square feet, and consists of a parking lot. Now, I'm of the opinion that is likely just a mapping error. At some point decades ago, it was intended to be rezoned to B2, much like the rest of the parking to the north of it. Again, some error may have occurred, so it's been shown as having M1 zoning on it. We kind of want to just clean that up and give it B2 zoning to match the rest of the parking in that area. So that just leaves the 2 other pieces of property, and we've already alluded to this. The notice that had gone out and the agenda as posted was with the assumption that we were going to move forward with rezoning the Carlson asphalt property in the post office. Now, some of this springs from the village has an adopted comprehensive plan from 2009, which actually would not have manufacturing zoning on these properties. And so that has somewhat been a foundation of what we've been looking at related to these properties. But as noted, conversations with the property owners and feedback from other residents in the area, we do kind of feel if we are to rezone these properties, both the Carlson and the post office properties, that would require more in-depth review than what we're doing here. The intent of this process that we are doing right now is this code update, the text update process that Arista has walked us through so far this evening. So as such, we're going to kind of pump the brakes there, and the intent is to leave these properties with the current zoning and incorporate the current zoning regulations into the code update. Thank you.
I have nothing else.
And that, well, since Arista has finished the zoning and Mark has finished the zoning review, we would move into the public hearing portion. Before I just open it up, I would like to have a show of hands. My goal here is to see how many people are interested in certain subjects, and maybe we can reduce the volume of people here.
I would offer that I see a lot of my neighbors in the Glen Eagles community.
Well, okay, that's one of the things. How many people, there was the smallest house, 500 square feet. How many people would like to see that changed back up to some number? Okay. I can't see people in the,
Hey, Ed, can you just kind of clarify for some folks?
yeah, we had, originally, the village had a number of 2,200 square feet, minimum house size on a 1 acre. But through the reviewing of a different house, different standards, we had discussed going down to 500, but we did have some different stepping points, and maybe, Mark, you'd be better to
Well, yeah,
discuss
just so
this.
the draft, the public hearing draft, for the lots 1 acre or more would retain the current 2,200 square feet. The original public draft from earlier this year actually had a 1,500 square feet. But as through the discussion at the multiple previous meetings, again, lots 1 acre or more would retain the current 2,200 square feet. And there was a lot of back and forth and possible some misunderstanding as well that led to the current proposal in the draft, that the lots less than an acre would have a minimum dwelling size of 500 square feet. And if, not to put words into your mouth, Ed, but I believe what you were looking for is a show of hands.
Yes.
So for the properties less than an acre, should that minimum dwelling size of 500 square feet be increased?
And hold your hands up. Are people in the, I can't see what's going on in the corner.
The majority.
In lieu, okay, based on that, based on the show of hands, I don't think we need to have, unless somebody wants to be a spokesman for everybody to speak against this, that you want an increase. I believe we would like to, as a board, take a look at this again and come back to you at the next meeting with another size. Okay?
I'd like to hear some comments.
Yeah, well, we're not, yeah, that's right, I haven't officially made the public hearing notice.
Are we allowed to speak?
Not yet, not yet, not yet. Wait a minute, Ralph, just a minute. Howard, now, should I get us into a public hearing,
Yeah, I mean, the public hearing's going on. If you want to open up to public comment,
public comment?
and I know your intent was to kind of streamline this to
Yes.
specific issues that may be the most controversial or need discussion. You know,
Okay.
to the extent we can do that, we can try. But if you want to open up to public comment
Okay.
and start that discussion.
And based on advice of the village attorney, I am going to open it up to comment, public comment. And I did that initially with a show of hands, but I don't know, there's so many people here, we'd be here all night if everybody stood here and did this.
It's
But
a
I-
public hearing, Chairman, so we
Yeah.
should, allow the public to, as best as possible, create an orderly line and speak at the podium. Again, state your name and make your comments. And
Mark, is there a sign-in list that we can use as the
There is a
basis for
sign-in
inviting
list
folks
as
up?
well, yes. Yeah. I mean, we collect that afterwards for the record, so, but again,
How, would that
yeah,
work?
there's another list, I think just,
It probably makes most sense for just people to start lining up and.
yeah, I
lining
think
up.
folks should just start lining up.
Okay, do you understand? We want you to line up and sign a letter or... Okay.
Hopefully I can lighten the crowd a little bit by speaking on behalf. Hold on. Is this any better? Is this any better?
Yeah, if we can try to keep the noise down so everybody can hear the comments as well.
Sure. So my name is Brad May. I'm a resident of the Glen Eagles community. I've been organizing communication lines with the Sun Hill community and the Glens of Connemara. All of those properties are adjacent to the Glen Eagles, what remains in Palos Park. So our key concern is regarding use of that land in future years. Right now, my understanding, I think Mark pointed it out, it's zoned R1A. We all signed up with intentions and accepting of risk that a house may be built in our backyard one day. But now that a lot of us have become aware of the WGA, we have different levels of concern with future use. And I'll try and be quick with questions so that we can keep this moving along. For clarification, would there be any zoning classification change associated with the WGA overlay?
That is a zoning classification change.
Okay.
Applying the WGA overlay is a classification change because the map will change,
Okay.
reflecting an overlay district on the property.
Okay,
And just to be clear, that WGA zoning that's now being imposed over has been existing forever, or since it was passed in 2021. So the WGA zoning has been in place despite not having that overlay district over the property.
okay. My next question is, because the description of requests in the staff report listed for that property says applied WGA Western Growth Area Overlay District zoning. I just want to double tap into, like, what does that mean in regards to the hundreds of homes that are in the general vicinity of that very narrow piece of property?
So again, the WGA exists as it exists today, and the WGA requires a process for development to occur, requiring a plan unit development, in which you guys would get notice the same way many of you have received a letter and saw the sign on the property. I've talked to many folks in Lamont in the development over the course of the last couple of weeks. So that's what it means. We are just changing how it is shown on our zoning map so that it is clearer that these provisions which exist and are this is an area of the current code that is just being copied and pasted into the proposed code. The map is just going to reflect that these requirements are in existence.
Okay, are you aware of, at this time, of any PUD proposals for the Glen Eagles land? Are you aware of any proposals for PUDs for the Mid-Iron?
No.
Okay. That does quite a bit to alleviate our concerns, although I guess just kind of one last thing is just Chapter 1273, Mark, I'm sure you're aware of, that's the specific code designated. I mean, the name of the title, or the title of that chapter is Western Growth Area Planned Unit Development. Sorry, I've lost my spot.
That's in the current code, 1273.
Yes, will that, after these proposed changes go into effect, will that still govern based on the ordinance?
Yeah, the intent was, a lot of that stuff was copied and pasted
Yep.
into the draft. Arista had mentioned those plan unit development regulations, how we're putting them in a single section of this code. So in the current code, there's stuff about PUDs in the R4, there's stuff about PUDs in the R5, there's stuff in the PUDs in our business districts, there's stuff about PUDs in the WGA areas. So those process elements for plan unit developments are being consolidated into a single section, but to the extent that there are guidelines of processes and such in the current code, that is being largely basically copied and pasted into this draft. I refer specifically to 1275, which is plan unit developments of the draft code, and specifically 1275-8, Western Growth Area PUD design standards, and 1275-9, which are standards for review, referencing commercial and WGA plan unit development. That's largely just copied and
So
pasted.
the Western Growth Area chapters that are there now will exist in future versions of the
I mean,
code?
they don't exist with the same numbering, but for the most part, that text has been copied
Sure,
and pasted and incorporated.
What I'm really getting at is, will 1273 still apply? Because there's
The Western Growth, these properties today, and if this code is adopted, still applies.
okay,
Yeah, just to be clear, any development in the WGA has to go through that process.
understood. I just want to call to attention, there's one part in there, there's 1273.07, Part 1C. I'm sure nobody has it memorized, but I'll use some of the terminology that it directly, but paraphrase, that the WGA planned unit development shall not be injurious to the use or enjoyment of the other properties in the neighborhood, shall not be inconsistent with the community character of the neighborhood, shall not alter the essential character of the neighborhood, shall not substantially diminish or impair property values within the neighborhood, or be incompatible with other property in the immediate vicinity. That's not a question, it's more of a, what I'm getting at is that piece of property is no more than 300 feet wide by my estimations.
Correct.
We are very concerned, given that there are houses to the north, the east, the south of that number in the hundreds. Our concern is that the WGA is going to put commercial priorities over people who are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars for houses and moving in now. And frankly, Pulte Homes still owns 35 homes yet to be built. Those properties are still owned by a publicly traded corporation. I presume they have some interest in knowing whether those houses will have the same value post any PUD for the Mid-Iron or Glen Eagles properties. So it's more of a statement of that we're watching.
Sure.
And we're very concerned that a commercial development on specifically the Glen Eagles property is something we are very concerned about. So
I would just kind of note,
we're not terribly happy with how it happened in the first place, too.
I would just
So-
kind of note the language that you referenced from the current code. In the draft code, you can refer to 1275.9A2, and you'll find similar language. And also to note, with the adopted Western Growth Area Master Plan, that is area shown in the plan for residential, not commercial development.
Thank you, I appreciate that, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Okay, I also want to address the Western Growth Area. I'm Richard Bruin, I'm the attorney for the Village of Lamont, from Atzel Glink PC, 140 South Dearborn Street, Chicago, Illinois. We submitted a letter to Mr. Herman earlier, the village administrator did, and the village objects to the inclusion of properties west of Bell Road into this new WGA district. That would include Cog Hill, the Mid-Iron, Ludnig, and the remnant Glen Eagle strip into this area. Well, the village feels, and this is all in the letter, that I would like to introduce into the record, but to summarize this, it's an overbroad type of use. Earlier in the presentation, there was a chart shown, and this could be, anything could go there under the PUD, from residential, commercial, institutional, recreational, and even industrial properties. This will be directly adjacent to residential homes in our community in Lamont, and we're asking that the commission consider the homeowners in Lamont as well. I'm sure in addition to many residents of Palos Park who are concerned with this too. So at a minimum, we are asking, well, we object to it, that particular portion being included, but at a minimum, we're asking that the remnant Glen Eagle strip be removed from the district, that it not apply to territories within 300 feet of any residential properties. Again, I know there's different processes that have to be gone through to get a PUD use, but still, once it's allowed and adopted, I mean, that really, it changes things. So I would like to enter the letter into the record for this commission to consider, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Brad May again, sorry. We did circulate a petition in the area. It does have 200-plus names on it as of 8:30 this morning. I'd like to submit that if I have to, or if that means anything. I've got a link to it.
You want to?
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay, no problem. Good evening. My name's Ronette McCarthy, and I live at 9002 West 121st Street in Palos Park. I want to let individuals know who are here which part I'm going to be asking questions tonight and speaking about. So if you are on the Development Regulations Code update on the website for the village, I'm specifically addressing under Public Hearing Draft Additional Documents, the second one, which is Principal Use Comparison Chart, which I did not see exhibited this evening, so I don't know if there was a reason why that was not shown.
I just prepared that as additional information for
Okay.
the public.
Okay. So that is the document that I will be talking about tonight. So before I begin, I wanted to recognize the Plan Commission, the Zoning Board, which I think some of the members are here tonight, the village staff, and the many residents and neighbors who have dedicated countless hours to reviewing what is before us. That level of commitment deserves respect, so thank you all. Obviously, this room shows that there's a lot of people that have spent a lot of time on this. However, it's difficult to reconcile that effort with what I see in this draft. Somewhere along the way, whoever is allowing certain definitions, and I'm going to talk a lot about definitions tonight, and uses to even be considered has lost sight of what Palos Park is, or perhaps they never truly understood what it was. The village was founded on careful preservation, open space, and intentional character. We have never been a community that does something just because other towns do it. Palos Park has always been unique by choice, by nature, and by design. I do not have time to cover tonight everything I reviewed. I expect our elected and appointed officials will continue to scrutinize the update completely, potentially looking at it more critically after hearing from everyone this evening and realizing the concerns throughout this room. I do hope that every resident who wishes to speak tonight is given ample time to do so, that they are allowed to do so, and that they don't leave before they address the Plan Commission this evening. The examples I'm going to share here tonight are not isolated edits. They are part of a sweeping rewrite that goes well beyond what most professionals or municipalities would call an update. For context, a code update typically means minor edits or modernizations, clarifying language, fixing inconsistencies, and aligning with state law. A rewrite means new structure, new definitions, new uses, essentially rebuilding the code or parts thereof. A recodification is primarily reorganizing existing laws with changing their meaning. What we have here tonight, in my opinion, is a rewrite, plain and simple. It's new zoning code with new categories, new permissions, and in many cases, new consequences for how Palos Park develops. A few concerns I'm going to share tonight are from the village's principal use comparison chart, which I already mentioned, located in the code update page. And if any of my fellow neighbors and residents attempted to look at it, I'm sure you probably did what I did the first few times, shook your head, because it was very small print. You'd have to print it out on legal size or bigger paper to even be able to read it on paper, or have a very large computer screen to do so. I do appreciate, Mark, your effort, because it has some really important modifications for the code that are in it, so thank you for summarizing them in that way. There's a few concerns. So first off, the addition of, and these are definitions, again, I'm not going to go through because it's multiple pages. I'm going to highlight some of the items that jumped out to me. First, the addition of treatment-oriented facilities. There's new categories like social service centers and residential addiction treatment facilities, and an expanded medical dental office that now includes methadone and detox clinics. These are not touch-ups. They are new uses added without a clear public rationale, standard, or discussion if it even fits in our neighborhood. The second definition, in addition, is an expansion of financial uses. It folds check cashing and currency exchanges into banks. It creates a new financial institution alternative category. Within this category are definitions that businesses such as payday loans, title loans, and cash for gold. Yes, you heard me correctly. It specifically lists that we could have cash for gold establishments suggested to be added to financial institutions alternative section. These are high-risk, high-turnover uses many towns tightly restrict or prohibit because of security, signage, and character impacts. Why would we even invite them here or have them added to those definitions? Third, the redefinition of offices and daycare uses. So office drops the specific professional examples, which we currently have, which is, right now, we list real estate, other businesses down. Many individuals feel that it's more archaic. There has been case law out there as well to remove individual itemizations of which businesses can be classified as an office. Now, it is offering just a general description. One of them, such as processing or manipulating business information. That's a definition for a business, which it could include dispatch centers or data hubs. Oddly enough, the very last sentence in that definition still adds tutoring services. As a named example, in one last sentence, after the update or rewrite moves specifically to remove examples currently listed in the code. Why would tutoring services be specifically highlighted in offices? They would appear to fit more appropriately in the newly defined educational facilities, which there are multiple new additions for that. There are two new ones called daycare centers and daycare home. I shouldn't say new, they're expanded definitions that now include elderly and functionally impaired adults. What this does is potentially allow for state-licensed or Medicaid support programs under the state's definitions, even in R1 and R2. That's a major policy shift that deserves real public discussion and about location, traffic, scale. If it is not the intent or the village plans to limit this in a different way, then I would like to know what that is. Finally, the open space. Open space is preserved to protect open space for recreational and conservation. Yet the matrix, which Mark has referenced, and our consultant, it exhibits what zoning classifications would be allowed within the open space classification, and it would allow cultural facilities. And there are further notes that say that the cultural facilities could have retail and restaurant components as a special use. Once we start carving into open space, we chip away at what defines Palos Park. Because of my time, I'm not going to cover everything else like I said, but I would like to voice my, obviously legacy lots already been discussed, the possibility of allowing commercial work vehicles and residential driveways. It's not allowed in the current code. I don't even agree with one. The expanded allowance of use of accessory structures, the consolidation of existing residential zoning districts, the new definitions being added for dwellings, which include multifamily, townhouse, and two-family, and the suggested elimination of certain zoning classifications, which if M is off the table, or M is still existing on the table, we can eliminate that, and the need for clearer standards to protect the character, scale, and destiny of established neighborhoods. These are examples of just a glimpse, and I hope that what I mentioned tonight, that all of you on the plan have already read this and have opinions about it, and maybe I can individually ask you some questions, because I did talk to some other individuals that have come to meetings and been involved, and this was like all brand new to them. So thank you, Mark, for doing the spreadsheet to allow us to drill down in this detail to certain definitions that are being added. These examples are a glimpse of what's being called an update, but again, I think there are aspects of it that are more of a comprehensive rewrite that's really changing the village. We spent a significant amount of money on a consultant and an enormous amount of time from staff, volunteers, and residents. After all of that, residents deserve a plan that protects our value, not one that undermines them. My call to action is simple. To my neighbors and residents, keep reading, keep asking questions, and keep showing up like you did tonight. Tonight is not the last meeting for this. Make sure you go to the village board if it does eventually get passed there as well. To the Plan Commission, require clear answers to the questions raised tonight and by others. Do not advance a document with unresolved and material concerns. If any of the items I mentioned to you are new or newer, or you're saying, I didn't see that anywhere in this, please, on behalf of those residents that are out here and throughout our village, question them and get answers. And to the village board who will ultimately vote, this draft is not ready. It should not be scheduled for a vote until the open questions of the residents are answered and impacts are explained with examples, and the code is aligned with Palos Park identity and priorities. I urge every one of you to step back, look closely, and remember what Palos Park stands for. Thank you.
My name is George Demos. I'm a resident of Palos Park for 8 years. I will not be as eloquent as the three previous speakers. I became aware of this two days ago, and before I begin, I do have a question. What is the, I was unable to find it, what is the rule for how high a residential home can go?
It's currently 25 feet. It's measured with a gabled roof to the midpoint. There are
Okay.
bonuses in the current code that would allow up to 35 feet, depending on certain
For
circumstances.
residential?
Yes.
And if there's easement out of the basement, then that could also be incorporated into the square
Measured
footage?
from the grade of like the front elevation.
Okay. But once there's easement out of the basement, that becomes included as part of the square footage of the home?
The square footage?
Yes.
Well, that is a point referenced in the staff report, just not to step on your toes.
No.
When we're discussing the minimum dwelling size, part of the code update was a lot of modernization and includes rules of measurement. That's something that needs to be looked at a little bit further with how dwelling area is calculated.
And the reason I bring this up, it is possible in these sub-1 acre lots to build a home that's 2,200 square feet if they go up and/or down. I believe a lot of our communities around us, Elmhurst, Hinsdale, just to name a few, they've worked around the zoning restrictions. And what brings me here today more than anything else is 4 of my mother's friends were with her today, and they were discussing how, oh, it's so cute, the village wants to allow tiny houses. Well, I did some quick research, and people that want tiny houses don't live near Palos Park, they live further out. What are tiny houses are trailers, container homes, studio apartments, things of that nature. And what kind of scares me is that we're here because we keep seeing everything is being made more simple, and yet I find it being more and more obfuscated the more I look into it. This is a walking community. I believe Ronette spoke for quite a bit of what I have to say of where we live. I think we have plenty of industrial area that's currently way underused. For instance, Southwest Highway between 131st and 143rd and a few other areas. We have plenty of strip malls that are nowhere near occupancy. Not to be rude, but we don't need any more vape shops or third or fourth rate franchises that just keep cycling when they get tricked into the area. But we are not a walking community, except on our bike path. We realize that we have to travel. We're here because of a certain lifestyle that we understand. We also appreciate that our taxes would be higher and are higher because we don't have we have not taken full advantage of areas that we can have commercial properties, and I'm frightened because we're hearing simplistic, and then I see that new institutional, what is it called?
Zoning district?
Zoning district, yes, and that's pretty specific in what's allowed. If I understand this correctly, and again, I'm very pedestrian in this regard, until something like that passes, it's simple, it's not allowed. Am I right? All of those institutional scenarios, a bakery, a methadone clinic, a rehab center, whatever it is, those currently aren't allowed.
Well,
Is that correct?
Those wouldn't necessarily, so it's separate, the uses. The institutional zoning, as I noted, is suggested to be applied to handful of specific properties that are all owned by the village. None of them are privately owned. Our parking lot, the sluice house, and the metro station. The staff did note in the staff report, there is obviously the potential to review the use table and the use definitions, and that's part of the public hearing tonight.
And those are only for current properties owned by the village. So the village could not acquire any additional property in the future. The village,
The village can acquire property and propose to rezone it at that time.
okay, and that's simpler than a case-by-case basis for us to vote on the parking lot next to Frangella's, turning that into a parking lot. It's simpler for you, I understand that. Probably simpler for us too. But we can't vote on a methadone clinic versus a bakery versus a vape shop versus 3,500 square foot homes, multi-use, multifamily structure. We couldn't do that one by one. It would slow down development. It would slow down anyone that wanted to do business here. But I think that would do a better job of protecting what a lot of us here are here to protect.
Okay, thank you. All right, thank you.
Hi, Ralph Jones. I'm going to be repeating some things other people have said, but I've stood in line so long, I figured I might as well say them. Legacy lots. The planner kind of misrepresented what legacy lots are. She said they're half the size of an acre lot. No, legacy lots are under an acre down to 20,000 square feet. So that means you could have a 43,500 square foot lot, and which is almost an acre, and that would be a legacy lot. So there's no reason to have a 500 square foot house. We've had 2,200 square feet for I don't know how long in our codes, and we've been able to survive. So I think we should be able to survive even further, keeping it at 2,200 square feet for legacy lots. Another one is open space. Again, that's been addressed, but again, it was nice on the presentation. It showed open space. I think it said cemetery and some other open element, but the way it reads now, it allows government offices, community center, cultural center, utility, and small wireless facilities. To me, that's not open. That's your building on it. It's a buildable site then. What you want to do is keep open space, meaning nothing being built on it. So I'd hope you'd look at it again and decide, that's not open, putting these facilities on it. The other thing is the financial institution alternative. Again, that was addressed, but it has undesirable elements in it. If prostitution was allowed, would we put a brothel in there? I mean, that's kind of what's being put in there, anything that's undesirable. So I think financial institutions should be eliminated. The Metro lot, all these other facilities that are being rezoned, to what is the category? Institutional, yeah. You're losing control by rezoning them to institutional. You're better off leaving them as R1. Then at least you have control over what's going to be, they're going to be used for in the future. By listing certain items, you're cutting down on your ability to control it. So I think you should leave these lots as R1A or R1, which is going to be now, and deal with them as they come along instead of putting down a specific use for these. I just wanted to ask the planner a quick question. There was a while back when the thought was there should be no zoning because it's so restrictive and discriminatory. I'm sure you've heard of it. They wanted to eliminate it where you could put a house up, you could put an apartment building, you could put a gas station, you could do anything you want on the properties, and I'm curious what your thoughts are on that. I'm sure you've heard of it, that they want to
eliminate, who's thought?
had articles on it, many articles, where they talked about eliminating zoning because it's restrictive and discriminatory.
So there's a couple things at play. It's a complicated question. There are places that lack zoning entirely. That's the city of Houston. So that's why you have a mini mall next to a single-family house, next to an amusement park. They do a lot of their negotiations by creating development agreements with what's coming in. So that's one of the few cities that lacks any zoning. You may be looking at things that talk about the discriminatory nature of zoning and that creating districts that are very single use, that, that very rigidly divide up single-family neighborhoods, that do things that kind of dictate how, that this is always going to be single-family, has kind of been a continuation of what's happened with redlining. And there's the thought and the theory out there that this has contributed to affordable housing crises, to kind of segregating neighborhoods away. It's led to those aspects of it. So it's not necessarily that it's getting rid of zoning, it's looking at eliminating things like getting rid of single-family exclusive zoning so that you can have a mix of dwelling types located within there, so you provide a range of opportunities to provide affordable housing, workforce housing, and really tear down some of the barriers of discrimination that have left kind of areas as enclaves without that going on. So that's likely what you're referring to, because that's really the stuff that's been going on. As a proposal to eliminate zoning entirely, very few places, I've never heard of anybody that's done it. The only one that's out there is Houston.
Can I piggyback real quickly to the extent some of that single-family zoning, those are various states, Oregon, I believe, maybe.
Maine has very...
Maine, yeah. So just a quick civics reminder, the Village of Palos Park is a creature of the state of Illinois. We exist because the state of Illinois allows us to exist, and if the state of Illinois tells us to do something, we have to do it. But of course, nobody's proposing to eliminate zoning, local zoning here in this meeting. We're looking to do the best as possible to update our zoning
I
regulations.
understand that. I just wanted to get the planner's opinion on it, how she feels about it.
I don't have an opinion on it. I work
Okay.
with individual communities and we figure out what's going on there. I'm explaining theories of thought. I don't advocate for any one of them. I have to work with the community I'm in.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure you were a fit for Palos Park. All right, but I do appreciate the rezoning or the rewriting of it, because it's made some things more clearer, or whatever, how you want to say it, than it used to be. It makes it easier to understand certain things, and I really like the fact of, and I spoke about this before, about the planting around parking lots, because I've had such a difficult time with the mosque across the street and getting proper planting. Well, at least now it shows a thought as to how it should actually be done, instead of saying just a dense hedge of coniferous trees. So at least you've covered that. But thank you for all your time.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you and much appreciation to the elected and appointed officials and to the employees and contractors for Palos Park who put this all together, so thank you. My name is Mario Molo. I'm the administrator for Lamont Township and for the Lamont Township Highway Department. I just have a prepared statement. On behalf of Lamont Township Supervisor Michael Shackle and Lamont Township Highway Commissioner Mark Labno, who both sent their regrets for not being able to make it tonight due to a previous commitment. Both Supervisor Michael Shackle, Commissioner Labno's only comments are that there are some concerns from the residents of Lamont Township who have some concern about the high-density portion of the plan. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Good evening. My name's David Brannigan. I live at 8108 West 124th Street. I'm going to talk about something that hasn't been talked about yet, and that's parking lots. It seems that the plan will now allow parking lots in any undeveloped lot in Palos Park. That's the way it seemed to...
No.
No?
You want...
So a standalone parking, let's just clear this up. A standalone parking lot is a principal use not tied to a business, only allowed in the WGA, only allowed through that PUD process. Okay, just to be clear of that. But if somebody has a parking lot as part of their business, obviously we have the standards for that. And what we've chosen, what you see proposed in the draft, is that one could have a remote lot. You know, I'm in a B1 district, 300 feet away, there's a piece of property I can lease, so I can have additional parking there. I cannot put that in a residential district. I have to be sitting in a commercial district, and I have to be 300 feet away, and I have to get a lease for it, and I have to get planning commission approval. So it can't just go anywhere, and it can't go in residential.
Okay, because what I'm most concerned with is the lot directly south of the, I guess it's now called the Administrative Center, it used to be Hobnobs. Years ago, Hobnobs wanted to create a parking lot out of the 2 lots to the south of Hobnobs. And my neighbor George and I went out and got petitions across the village, and it was denied. One of the things they wanted to do was cap the creek. Now, in Palos Park, we don't have storm sewers. We rely on our creek system in order to carry away stormwater. And my yard and several other yards on the block flood whenever there's a heavy spring or early summer rain. And as a matter of fact, that lot directly to the south of what used to be Hobnobs, years ago, the first time I ever came to a meeting, which was about 40-some years ago, somebody wanted to build on that lot. And so they used to send out an email to, not an email, a letter to all the surrounding houses to have them come to the planning commission meeting. And when I mentioned the overflowing of the creek, one of the people on the zoning commission at that point said, oh, that lot, that's underwater a lot of times. And so the people who wanted to build on it, their lawyer got up and said, forget it, we're not going to build on it anymore. So I'm very worried about anything that has to do with creeks and the possible capping of creeks. That particular creek, before they made the culvert just south of McCarthy Road on 81st, before they made that culvert bigger, there was a video store. And when we'd walk to the video store in the spring, many times we'd have to take off our shoes and socks and roll up our pants to walk across the river that would flow across 81st Avenue. That doesn't happen much anymore, but the lots still flood. Also concerned about the 3 lots at the corner of 82nd Avenue and McCarthy Road. And I'm not sure exactly how that's zoned, but that is...
Zoned single-family residential.
It is, okay, so there could not be a parking lot or a remote parking lot on any of those lots?
Not under the current draft, anybody looking to do something like that, somebody could propose rezoning the property, but it would not be allowable by right.
Okay, so hopefully that also applies to other people in the village who might be worried about parking lots in their neighborhoods. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Vanetta Wigman. I live at 52 Rumiga Lane. And I stand at this podium tonight to address the people of the village of Palos Park, not just the board that sits before me, to the people to the village who are watching online, and all of you who came tonight. I speak to you about my hopes and dreams for the village in which we live. That those who hear me now understand I believe in preserving the distinct and harmonious daily living we have come to expect. That the goal of the board and the mayor and the village council is to perpetuate this existing high-quality residential character of our village by hearing the code change complaints we speak of today, and that can be found, and Arista, you did a nice job of summarizing it, but she summarized a 14-page code development update that talks specifically about what she ran through earlier. January 18th of 2024, the project was introduced as an update to our development codes and regulations. In fact, the special joint meetings with the Plan Commission and the ZBA are called Developmental Regulations Code Update. Let me repeat, update. What was presented as a beneficial cleanup to our codes has turned into a code rewrite, in some cases changing codes drastically. These drastic changes are not in keeping with our quiet little Palos Park. I'm going to talk to you only about 3 drastic changes. Why are we finding the need to make lots smaller than 20,000 square feet, less than half an acre, buildable? This is not a slight change. These tiny parcels are where our wildlife live, fox, squirrels, snakes, beneficial wildlife to our ecosystem. Not to mention the trees we will lose. Did you want to clarify something?
No, I'm sorry, I apologize.
Okay.
I apologize.
Trees that filter our breathing air, what will this do to our roads? Where we once came to expect all new buildable lots to be an acre or more, this new code allows for what were once non-buildable lots to be built on. Why our property, did you want to say something?
No, that's not true.
Okay. I'm going off of what you and I discussed, Mark.
But it has to be an existing lot.
Existing
We're
lot.
not creating 20,000 square foot.
No, we're
lot.
not creating them. What we have as an additional legacy lot can be built on.
Yeah. Well, oh,
An existing legal lot.
An existing or legal,
No, an existing legal lot of record.
okay. Are those,
Go ahead.
so you and I went back and forth in
Yeah, we
emails?
exchanged some emails, yeah.
Okay. Explain to me what a legacy lot under 20,000 square feet
Well,
is.
regardless of the lot size, the village in 1952 first put the provisions in place with the 1 acre lot size, and at the time even specifically noted that existing legal lots less than an acre would still be able to be built on at that time, 73 years ago. And that has always been the case. So what the proposal is just a modification of what then the other standards are. And of course, those numbers, the document before us today is not set in stone. If there's a desire to change what some of those setback requirements are, we're open to that feedback. But again, we're talking about existing legal lots of record that have always been allowed to be built on. If someone came in today in the office to submit a permit on an 18,000 square foot lot, if they meet the setbacks, we have to issue them a building permit, period. So as long as it's an existing legal lot of record, and there's times when, there might be a little bit of confusion about that. So we obtained information from the applicant, doing a title search and such, and I have a conversation with the village attorney to ensure that it is indeed an existing legal lot of record. So we're stringent about that. But again, a 30,000 square foot lot, a 20,000 square foot lot, as long as it's an existing legal lot, it is a buildable lot.
Thank you for that clarification.
Sure.
Just a comment on it. Just to clarify for everybody else in the room, because I know it's come up a lot, I hear a lot of chatter about it. The 500 square foot minimum was a number we agreed upon when we were trying to decipher a benchmark under the 2,200 square foot minimum for legacy lots. So we have neighbors, and Mark brought us the science behind it now, we've got numbers. We have 153 homes under 1,500 square feet in Palos Park, most of them over here on the east side of Palos Park. The idea is that
Under
if...
1,500?
Yeah, Mark...
1,500.
Under 1,500 square feet. And there's another 19 under 1,000 square feet, all over on this side of Palos Park. The idea behind our discussions with 500 square feet and all the numbers we've talked about was if someone with an existing historic, older, tiny home, something that's been built here for a while, tree comes through it, tornado comes through, act of God, flood, fire, systemic failure from septic underneath it. Some of these houses are built on dirt. If the cost for repairs exceeds 50% of the value of the home, they would have to abide by our new code that we've set here. So you've got homeowners that could potentially have a small 900 square foot home, have a tree come through it as a result of a tornado or a storm, and now they're required under the original draft to build a 2,200 square foot house on potentially something smaller than half an acre, which may already, being as old as it was built, may already have setback issues, might already be too close to the sides, too close to the front. So now we're tearing down oak trees, eliminating permeable land space to build on to meet these minimum requirements. Arista had some text at the beginning of her presentation under nonconformities regarding a 1-year permit period where you could apply for a permit, which would allow you to build back to the original standard of the home you have. And I think that solves a lot of the issues that we had as a group with those numbers. And so with Mark's science behind this, the homes that truly are in this square footage bracket in Palos Park, combined with that nonconformity clause, I think we can come to a much better number than 500 square feet, and I think we need the time to do that still.
Yeah. Well,
Okay,
I'm sorry
Yes.
to interrupt, but that can be a case-by-case basis. There aren't going to be 100 homes at one time that are
That-
taken care of like that. But once we open the door to 500 or 800,
Well-
that changes things significantly. There is a rule and a law there that is in place. And as a community, I would feel for anyone in that would find themselves in that situation. But that's a lot smaller number than, how many lots did you say currently?
We have 150 lots under 1,500, 150 under, roughly 150 under 1,500 square
So,
feet.
Mark, do these lots he's referring to have homes on them now?
Yes.
Okay, so when you're, and I'm not talking about the 500 square feet. I'm talking about lots that are buildable. Okay, and we have
I just wanna add
three.
something. I'm sorry to cut you off. A lot of us live
Wait.
on sub-1 acre
wait,
lots.
I'd like you to get up to the podium after her, okay?
I'm
Thank
sorry,
you.
I'll wait.
So we have three distinctions right now. We have 43,650 to 20,000. We have 20,000 and less, but then we have legal or legacy, what we're calling legacy lots that are legal non-conforming.
So, just to clear, a good way to maybe think about this, if, say, the code is adopted and someone were to walk into Village Hall to apply for a permit, if the lot is over an acre or more, those provisions apply. If it's between 20,000 square feet but less than an acre, it would be considered a legacy lot, and those provisions would apply. If it's less than 20,000 square feet, the legacy lot provisions would still apply, but it would be deemed a legal non-conforming lot. So that distinction is maybe somewhat semantic. As talked about at some of the previous meetings, the idea of having a legal non-conforming lot could create issues with, banks and folks getting their ability to obtain a mortgage, et cetera. But so to a certain extent, it might be easier just from the perspective of what regulations apply to really just think of that acre or more and less than an acre standpoint. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
Less than an acre,
Less than an acre.
legal,
Again, so
buildable.
today, a 20,000 square foot lot, if it's an existing lot, is a legal buildable lot, and that's, the provisions of the code that currently exist governing this are copied and pasted into the draft code
Less than 20,000, okay.
about
And just to
legal
be-
lots.
And to be clear, what you can't do is subdivide a lot to create a smaller lot and then
Not,
build
yeah,
on it.
not
right?
asking,
This is-
I am addressing lots that right now have tax codes that somebody owns, that has no home on it, that's under 20,000 square foot, and we're going to let somebody build on it.
Right,
You're
which-
shaking your head no.
They,
You can
they
build
can
on
build on it today.
They can
You
build
can.
on it
They
today.
can build on it today.
They could build on it 50 years ago.
That's fine, if it's not broke, we'll fix it. But to put a smaller home on those lots is ridiculous.
It's designed to protect the existing small homes.
Protect the existing homes by saying, if you have your grandfather them in, that's not an issue. I think most people have the issue with, they don't want a developer coming in and putting up small little tiny houses in Palos Park, dotted all over the place.
Mr. Chairman, as
Then we need to make
Yeah.
that clear.
Can we restore order?
Yeah, okay. Okay, okay. Are you finished? You have-
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Okay,
Would you, both of you, let her finish,
thank you.
okay?
Okay. Okay, why are property use classifications being changed? Why are we changing the designation of parcels around town to make them buildable with stores, cultural centers, and land to house towers? Why are changes being made that create more road traffic, wear and tear on our roads, garbage pickup, snow plows? Why are changes being made to our existing code that don't need changing? People want to be able to park their commercial vehicles, their business trucks with logos, ladders, and advertising written all over the vehicle at their home. This is not a problem and never has been because our current code allows you to park your commercial vehicle at your residence in your garage. But this is changed in the new code. Payless Park is going to allow a commercial truck to be parked outside the residence for all to see, all day, all night, and changes the high quality, peaceful, open space, residential character in our small town. Why are changes being made to the Forest Preserve or Cook County property? Why are we calling them open space? Doesn't Cook County tell us what can be done with that property in open space? What can be built on open space has already been discussed. One last clarification to the people of the village. The village has a current code, the one we abide by currently, the one I spoke of tonight when I asked why are we changing it. But I would like the people of the village to know that there is Public Draft 1 and Public Draft 2, one dated February 25th, two dated August 25th. When you hear the commission or the board talk about changes, make sure they are referring to changes from our current code and not discussing redlining Public Draft 1, which has already changed our current code, to Public Draft 2. In closing, I think I speak for you, my neighbors, when I talk about what we love about our village and what we want it to continue to be. We want to preserve our peaceful, safe, diverse village where young and old can enjoy the outdoors and live out their lives. We seek open spaces, clean air, and quiet. We love that small town country feel with individual, unique style homes. We love knowing we still have open spaces where wild animals roam and live freely to nestle in highly wooded legacy lots. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you doing? My name is Dave Wilkes. Lived on 119th and Bell since 1970. My mom still lives there. I need a little clarification if you can roll that zoning map over, because like lady says, you can't read the thing on a thing. The corner of Bell and McCarthy. The guy wants to put a mini mall in there. Is that your property or is that Lamont's now? You guys transferred it back into Lamont.
That was never in Payless Park, so.
That's why I want to clarify that. The property that you're saying you want to annex from Cog
We're
Hill.
not annexing any, it's already annexed, Cog Hill's already annexed. Bell Road, right here, in 123rd, north and southwest corners. There's the townhome development there in the north corner.
And you're saying here, you're saying you're annexing Cog Hill
We're not,
property?
the Cog Hill's already been annexed, and it's been for a number of years. To answer your question about the corner, the southwest corner, where there's been some exploration of a commercial development there, that is not in the village of Payless Park, that's in the village of Lamont.
But you got the water line across.
It's still in the village of Lamont. We can't just take it.
Understand that. The reason why I'm asking is because Cog Hill owns all the way from Archer to Bell Road. Now, you got on here, you're doing the properties, 12294 South Archer. How much property are you talking about there? Like I said, Cog Hill owns from Archer all the way to Bell Road.
The properties that are in the village of Payless Park currently, that are west of Bell Road, we are looking to put that WGA designation on.
Okay, you people need to look at Lamont's 2030 comprehensive plan. Because right past the 119th and Bell Road, they want to put a road in from Bell Road to Archer. People are aware of that? I don't think so. Look at their comprehensive plan. You people, right behind 119th, you know where Liberty Drive is? Okay, right behind Liberty Drive, the south end, Lamont has a road comprehensive plan, 2030, to put a road through there. That's why I'm asking what property, because that's all Cog Hill's property. We've been there since 1960. I know Zimzik, Jeff Lapp, Kenny, worked with all them guys, worked on all these golf courses. You people are all newbies. I've been there since 1970. Okay, now another thing for you people in Glen Eagles. on that edge over there by the power lines, Lamont is buying 3 lots. They want to put another water tower in there and technically another well. I don't know if you people are aware of that. You people need to go to Lamont meetings, not just come out here and complain here about the stuff over there. Lamont's pulling a lot of fast ones that you people got to be aware of. My name is Dave Wilkes. I am personally by name. I don't have to tell them what my name is or anything else. I go to all the Lamont meetings. I piss them off.
Well, I
They
do
told me I don't
encourage-
live in Lamont. You know, what do you care? That's the wrong thing to tell somebody that has 3 properties in Lamont and 2 in Lamont Township. My brothers, my parents, you know, all still live in that area, like I said. And that Mid-Iron, that's Zimzig's property. That's what I know it is, not as Mid-Iron.
Thank you.
Hi there, thanks very much for letting me intrude on your meeting. I live in Lamont as well. I live actually, my name is Father Nick Granius. I'm a parish priest, Greek Orthodox parish priest here in the area. And I've lived in Lamont for 15 years since we came back from overseas. We live in the Glens of Connemara, which is right about on the edge of where Lamont ends and Palos Park begins. But it struck me today, as it has many times, driving from there to here, it's a long drive. It's a lot of miles, and it's a lot of open space. And after hearing so many eloquent people here talk about their home in Palos Park, and I know Palos Park from my school days because my law school roommate and best friend, Gene Diamond, lives right across the street. This is a special city. But we moved to Lamont, and we think Lamont is a special city. From hearing the eloquent people today, it strikes me that there are 2 Palos Parks. I mean, there's this Palos Park, an old traditional Palos Park with these wooded lots and everything else. And then there's a new Palos Park that's on the other side of Bell Road that's trying to find itself and trying to develop its own identity and be merged into the old Palos Park. And that's probably a kind of hard thing. We were one of the very first houses to be built in the Glens of Connemara. My wife came from New Zealand and found the lot, and it was built for us, and it was ready when we came back. It's the very first lot on the west that is adjacent to Glen Eagles. So for our first few years, we got a lot of free golf balls, and we got a lot of free dents in our siding. I would have traded the one for the other, but... and then we were aware of the annexation of those properties. And a lot of us were concerned. And I expect many other people here, trooped down to the county building and testified at the county board and saw to our dismay what county government looks like. But the biggest thing was we felt disenfranchised. What our opinion was irrelevant to what was going to happen. And so it happened, and we mollified ourselves with the fact that, well, nothing has happened yet, and I still got free golf balls and dents in my siding for a few years. And then we heard that Pulte was going to build a big development over there. And I went to the meeting about that. And my concern was, because we're right on the golf course, there's an old iron fence with hackberry and mulberry trees that have created a very nice hedge. And I just wanted to make sure at that hearing that whatever was built would not tear down our hedge. And so that's when I first saw that there is that strip of land that is now that backwards sea. And that was reassuring as well. And we've enjoyed the quiet, being distant from the construction. But we were not unaware that something could happen, and that once again we might feel helpless and not have a real voice. In this particular case, now that the Glen Eagles property is now back to Lamont, there's 500 Lamont families there, or there's going to be. And there's 200 Lamont families in Glens of Connemara, and they're big families. You should see the kids running around. It's really wonderful. And we're the ones that would be affected. I'm here just specifically talking about that strip, the Glen Eagles strip, and the alarming news that it might be for sale, and the alarming news that it might be zoned commercial. The people who will be overwhelmingly affected by that are the people who live in Glens of Connemara and Glen Eagles. It will affect everyone, but especially, okay, as well, and other houses. And will overwhelmingly be affected. And we're all Lamont residents. And it's very frustrating to feel that, thank you for giving us a voice here, but ultimately we feel that we don't really have much of a voice because a decision has been made before, totally irrespective of our concerns, and we fear that at some point a decision will be made again, totally irrespective of our concerns. So it's not particularly reassuring to hear there's no plans for something, because there were no plans for anything when the land went to Palos Heights, and there were no plans at the beginning when Glen Eagles was sold, but then ultimately things happened. And that would be a disastrous, what we fear on that strip, with commercial access or all the other things we fear that may never happen, the fears of them are disastrous, and ultimately it's concerning to us because we are way distant, and the decisions to be made are from people who 15 years ago we felt it's unfair that officials in Palos Park who don't really care about Lamont because it's on the other side of the forest preserves. It's so far away. That's just a great fear to us. So we want to do everything we can to keep our voice, and we want to ensure that no decision is made that is deleterious to those 700 families and the other families from all the other places that would be the ones that are affected by drastic changes to the nature of that property. So,
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody else want to speak?
My name is Jen Lasota. I live at 12400 South 81st Avenue. First, there's a couple of things I want to touch on. First is the changing of the institutional use to some of the village's parcels. The one that I'm mostly concerned about is the metro station.
Could you push your mic a little
Sure.
closer?
The one that I'm mostly concerned about is the metro station. And I can understand why the village is doing it, but I think that when I look at the uses that are being included in that, I have some extreme concerns about it. To be able to, I live right by the mosque and what's happened with that, and the impact that my life, my family's life, and I think I can speak for most of my neighbors, that we deal with on a day-to-day basis, and with the parking, the traffic, everything, is overwhelming. And it really has taken, I've lived there for 37 years, and the past few years has been, my quiet enjoyment is gone. What we used to have, we no longer have. And I think that if the metro station were to be redeveloped and it goes to one of these uses, it's going to impact us even more. I am also concerned about the redevelopment of things that are going on 80th Avenue. Right now, if you try to get down that street, okay. Right now, if you at certain times during the day, if you try to drive down that street, you'll sit there for 5 stoplight changes before you're going to get through. The traffic has, between the hospital, the mosque, the schools, it's just, we just don't have the, I think, infrastructure with the roads to be able to accommodate some of the traffic that would be coming from these developments. And I would hope that before we make these changes, that we kind of take a look at what the impact of traffic would be from these uses in changing these to the, I'm not thinking that it shouldn't be an institutional use, but maybe some of the uses that we're including in there should not be included. And and maybe we should keep those uses out of there, and then it would make more sense, because I don't know, how long do we have, the agreement with Metra, is that in place for how many years? I mean, is it, can they terminate at any time so that these would then go into play? I mean, and does anybody know? No.
Yeah, just to be clear, the properties are owned by the village. So
Right.
if there were to be
But there's an
any,
agreement with Metra, is there not? For
the parking lot
For the
itself?
parking? No?
I don't believe
There's
there
not?
is.
So the village, I mean, can do what, so at any given time, the Metro station could just go away?
Not the station.
The station stays, but the parking
The
doesn't?
parking lot is owned by the village.
Okay. So I guess I would be, it's even more concerning to me then, because I mean, the village at any time can then determine, oh, we want to sell this and change it into something else. And
Well, we
so-
still need parking for the train station.
It's not just about the parking. It's,
Well-
well, it's about the traffic. It's, right now with the mosque, I mean, there is not enough parking. And so they're parking everywhere. And they're parking, you know, at the, you know, I know they're redeveloping, or not redeveloping, they're rebuilding the old, I call it the old village courtyard because it's been there forever, but what was Hobnobs. And they're putting in a use there that I believe is going to, I wonder how, when that use comes, when they take occupancy, how is the parking that they're now using for the mosque, how are they going to park the use? I mean, there's all of these issues that I keep looking at, and then when I started looking at the parking, the ratios for it, I just don't understand how we're allowing parking in facilities like the mosque is parking at the gas station. How are they allowed to park at the gas station when the gas station has a use and they have a number of parking spaces that they are required to have, but now they're operating and they're letting them park at their facilities? So I don't understand, you know, I think that as a whole, I would like to see some further drafts go into the parking situation and have where the village has more control over the reciprocal parking agreements that go into place, making sure that there is enough parking for each use, and if there is, you know, how is the parking also being looked at? If you're using it for this time, and there's got to be a schedule so that that we're always sure that there's enough parking, because it seems to be a huge issue right now. And so I would like to see further modifications to the parking, you know.
Hi, my name is Howard Pocious. I live at 55 Omega Lane. In the Development Code update, under accessory structures, there are several restrictions on honeybees listed. Is that still under consideration, or has that been dropped? Does anyone know? I'm sorry?
I think we defined in the last revision, Arista, we just took apiaries out of the front yard, and I think the reason we all agreed between the ZBA and us was safety issues with delivery drivers, children, trick-or-treaters, other things like that. Plus, there were there were other issues Mark brought up that I can't recall off the top of my head, but we moved the apiaries to the side yard.
It was being equitable against other, we didn't want accessory structures in the front yard, and the hives would be a structure.
Okay.
Just reporting back, that's all.
Does that answer your question?
So it's accessory structures or it's trick-or-treaters? I'm confused here. Okay.
No.
That seems irrational to me because many of these yards are huge and shrubbery everywhere. Secondly, there's a part about 20 feet from the lot line. Well, bees fly right out of the exit, or their entrances, straight line, head up, head off to the forage. Whether that hive is next to a lot line, a building, a shrubbery, they don't fly in that direction. They fly out to the opening. So I think that is very arbitrary. Third question, it mentions apiary is that the Illinois state definition of apiary, or is that, could be only one honeybee hive, or is that some other definition?
From our perspective, we're just defining apiary as the hive structure. If there's more modification we need to make, because we're not we're regulating the structure that's going in.
So if it's on wheels, we're covered, that's great. Next question.
Sure.
Is it,
Okay.
oh, I think this stuff's kind of goofy. I'd be very happy to give a tour of my hives to whoever come up with this. If you give me the contact information, I'm sure we can set something up. Thank you so much.
All right.
Hi, my name's Lawrence Henning at 18 Ramsgate Drive right here in town. My question is about the Forest Preserve property. Mark, I believe, sir, you mentioned that the Forest Preserve property is annexed into our town already, or it's going to be annexed in?
There are certain areas already annexed in, yes.
Okay.
We are not proposing any annexations, period, on tonight's meeting.
Okay, the property that's annexed into Palos Park from the Forest Preserve, who's paying the taxes on that?
I believe because it's Forest Preserve, it's exempt property.
There's no tax, but we're not liable for the tax. Okay, and you mentioned that some of that property was already zoned as R1A?
The current zoning map shows it unzoned, with no zoning. But there's text in our code stating property annexed into the village, unless the council otherwise puts zoning on it, is R1A zoning.
Okay, and then correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought I heard you mention when you were talking about that then you could rezone it with a OS over the
Well,
R1A?
the proposal is this draft would create an open space zoning district, and we're looking to apply that to the Forest Preserve properties.
Okay, now, I don't know. I've been in construction for a long time, and I've never seen it in print, but I was always told that Cook County Forest Reserve property cannot be sold or built on unless it's for the Forest Preserve, like a...
That may be the case, and again, there are Centennial Park and the cemetery, so there's some other properties we're looking to put the open space zoning on, also the vacant lots across the street from the Plush Horse. But yeah, part of it is though...
Forest Reserve though, is it?
I'm sorry, what was that?
Centennial Park
No,
is...
village-owned property.
Yeah.
The open space, it's more, we're creating a zoning district, where does it make sense to put it? And again, to the extent that some of the uses could be modified, we're of course open to that. But the thought process was that an open space zoning district makes more sense for Forest Preserve property as opposed to a single-family zoning designation.
But I thought you couldn't build on Forest Reserve property.
Again, it's how we're designating it on our map. Again, the thought being that in open space zoning makes more sense than single-family
All
zoning.
right, but...
You can,
Okay, out of all these different zoning things that you're bringing up tonight, if it gets zoned that way, then that just opens up that,
But if
God
the
knows
Forest
what.
Preserve can't develop it, again, the property ownership's not changing, so to the extent that Forest Preserve property is limited by virtue of its ownership by the Forest Preserve, that's not changing.
All right, okay, I'll take your word for that one.
Well, we're not
Why
buying
would you change
property
the
from the
zoning
Forest
if-
Preserve.
If you can't build on it, why would you change the zoning?
We think it makes more sense than having a single-family zoning designation on it.
All right. Thank you.
Hello. Michael Cullen, 120th and Hobart. Of the 10 representatives here that are representing Palos Park Township, I'd like a show of hands of who's pro-development and who is not. Which of the 10 of you, could you please raise your hand if you're pro-development? I take it you all are because you're trying to put this past us, which you tried about 4 or 5 years ago and it didn't work. And you can see the mood here amongst the people. But could you please be honest and brave and tell us, are you pro-development or not?
I don't think we have to answer that.
Pardon me?
We don't have to answer that.
Oh, you don't have to answer that. So you're ashamed if you are pro-development?
I'm not ashamed, but we're all for the
Do you
village.
understand what everybody here is feeling?
We do?
Are you discounting that?
No.
Are you ignoring that? Well, tell us,
No.
what is your plan to development? Why do you want to develop much substantially Palos Park in a business sense? Why do you want to do that?
We don't.
I don't think anyone,
That's not the intention of this redesign at all.
Oh, it's
also,
not?
we've had
Then
like,
why are you spending this money having this done?
But to update and revamp our code.
Or this is just merely an updating of the code?
Mark?
You don't have any grandiose plans to foist upon us?
so I think it's important to remember, we've had like 5 meetings that have gone several hours, that have all been public. And this is the first one everyone came to, and I really appreciate it, but until like tonight, and I missed the last one, so I'm sorry, but until tonight, we really didn't have a lot of feedback from anyone. And I get that the village website is hard to navigate, but all of these have been like available. The red line was available for people to see. I have told everyone I know to look at the code and pay attention. So like, I know that you guys are upset and you're not feeling heard, but also we haven't heard you yet. And we're giving you this space and everyone's here to listen. And this code will be better because you're all participating. And that's what we want. That's why this is a public meeting. So I promise you, we are not trying to slip a fast on anyone. Like, I'm not, those aren't great words, but like, we're not trying to. We all love Palos Park, but we have not really heard feedback from the town, the zoning committee, us. There's been like 1 or 2 people. Sometimes people came to the meeting saying they don't want us to cut down trees. That's been the most compelling feedback we've gotten. So we are listening. I promise you we're listening. This is not the end of the conversation. This is honestly the most feedback we've gotten for a year.
Well, I appreciate your honesty. I just would like to know what we're trying to accomplish here as a town from your aspect. You can see our aspect and how we feel, but we're not hearing anything from you other than zone changes or PUDs or WGAs. I think you have great plans for the western part of the town, but tell us what your plans are. I mean, you're not really elucidating to us what you want and what
Look,
we're...
this started out as a change in our zoning code to organize it, and nobody really took a look at it for, 70 years. And we've been trying to rewrite it to bring it up to current standards. Yeah, we had a lot of, Mark alluded to different parts of the code. It's sprinkled all over in different paragraphs, different pages. We're trying to organize it and then bring it up to date with Arista. But we don't have any, you're making it sound like we want to redevelop the whole town, and that's not our purpose. Our purpose was to get this document workable. And we've added and clean up some of the zoning districts, and a lot of this is housekeeping for us.
And I think I would also encourage anyone who thinks that something like nefarious is going on here to go on YouTube and watch every single joint planning commission and zoning board of appeals meeting where we have discussed all of these issues.
Well, do you remember 4 or 5 years ago when you wanted to put a business park?
I'm talking about 2025. So it's
I mean-
all online, it's all public. So you can also see how the code got to this point, which is now we're also doing further review for.
Okay. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hello, Ed Kopinski, Palos Park resident for 36 years. Open land, it just never heard, just like the gentleman said, Cook County, giving up land for special use. The new zoning, one of the land happens to be next to a commercial lot that's been trying to be developed or sold for many years. Is that a coincidence? How did you guys pick that single lot right next to a commercial lot? Maybe it's going to be convenient for the developer or whoever owns the lot to develop that. Pretty odd. Thank you.
Are you referring to the, no, okay.
I'm sorry? Go ahead.
The equestrian center.
That is correct. next to the bank.
The bulk of the Forest Preserve property, not all of it, but the bulk of it between the bank and the portions of the Forest Preserve that are in the village, the majority of that is unincorporated, so we do not have jurisdiction on. There's just a couple of small pieces off of 94th Avenue of Forest Preserve property that are in the village. Again, we're looking to just, it's Forest Preserve, and we feel the open space zoning makes the most sense.
Well, nobody ever heard of
The
open
bulk of
space.
the forest, it's a new district. The bulk
Right,
of the
that's why
bulk
we're
of
here
the bulk-
questioning it.
Sure, yeah, I appreciate it. The bulk of that Forest Preserve property, you can see it on the map. I know it might be hard to see, but the bulk of it between the bank moving eastward is unincorporated. We would have no jurisdiction over it. We would not be able to zone the property to the extent that the Forest Preserve may sell unincorporated Forest Preserve property. We would have no say in the matter because, again, the bulk of it is unincorporated.
It just looks suspicious because it was right next to the commercial property that,
Noted, but the Forest Preserve directly east, adjacent to the vacant lot that you're speaking of is unincorporated.
thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, I'm Paul Sahaki, 56 from Eagle Lane, Palos Park. I was at the last meeting, and I spoke about the 500 square foot lot. And it's now my understanding that if somebody has a house that is under 22 square hundred feet, and it gets destroyed by natural disaster, whatever, fire or everything, they will be grandfathered in, that they can rebuild their house to their specs for 1 year, permitting-wise. If they apply for that permit within 1 year, they'll be able to rebuild their house.
That's the understanding, right, Arista?
That's my understanding. Okay, so then I guess my next question is, of all the lots in Palos Park that are non-conforming, that have no structure on them now, can a 22 square hundred foot home be built on those lots?
Yeah.
Okay.
Under the current code,
Under the current code, every lot that's out there, so why on earth are we shrinking these houses down to 500 square feet? 500 square feet, by the way, is half the size of this room. It's a third of this room.
We've agreed that that number is not correct, or we're reviewing it.
Okay, so.
That is gonna be
and
reviewed.
So then, because I
Okay.
was here last time, and I just want to make sure that we're clear, I don't think there's a reason to change it from the 2,200 square feet. And I think tonight, when the people came in and we had a show of hands, there was a resounding no that we do not want 500 square foot homes in Palos Park.
I'd just like to add, Mark provided a matrix of surrounding municipalities and what their standards are, and there were a couple municipalities that had multiple breakpoints, where you had 2,200 square feet over an acre, and there were multiple breakpoints, and I think that's something that the Plan Commission here needs to discuss, internally and review to maybe.
Right, well, and I appreciate that, but like it was said earlier tonight, we're not other municipalities, we're Palos Park. We're unique, and it should remain Palos Park. And by the sound of applause, I think that people want it to remain 2,200 square feet. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you guys for all your work.
Thank you.
Correct. You can build as big as you want, as long as it conforms.
Well, they need to be conforming to the variances of
Not-
what they put up, the new ones, right?
well, not necessarily, Vanessa, just, if someone applies for a permit, if they check all the boxes in the code, they get their permit. If they don't, they don't, and if they want to request a variance, they can.
But for all intents and purposes, there's not a lot in Palos Park that is vacant right now that a 2,200 square foot home cannot be built on.
Agreed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Denise?
Hi. Good evening, Denise Cowan, 8203 West 125th Street. And first, I want to thank you all for all the time and effort you've put into this process. I have been at many of the meetings. Quite frankly, I found a lot of it very confusing because I don't know all these terminologies. But what I do know is things are changing, and I am concerned about some of these changes. I'm not going to reiterate what everyone else said, but regarding the commercial vehicles being allowed to be parked overnight, I contacted a number of villages that I believe are at the same kind of status as Palos Park, and Hinsdale, Western Springs, Clarendon Hills, they don't allow it. and I don't think we should allow it to.
Okay. Thank you.
Just to clarify, we're allowing passenger, the code that we have, the draft allows for passenger vehicles with a commercial marking, not commercial or box trucks or semi-trucks or trailers or anything. I'm sorry?
Because,
Go ahead.
that's not the point of it. The point of it is that, the point is that today, there are some people in our community that do have small signs on the sides of their passenger vehicle trucks. But we're not fining them. These are working people that bring either their business truck home that their business owns, or their work allows them to do that. And sometimes they can, sometimes they can't because they don't have it. So being that we don't have the power, the manpower, the people power to enforce the ordinance, our thinking was simply that let's allow this for people that want to be able to bring that work truck home. It's not a commercial vehicle.
You're opening a can of worms. You're absolutely opening a can of worms. It's like, it's the same thing like allowing a little gambling here that nobody can see in the village. No, you're opening up a can of worms. People are going to take advantage of that. I mean, right now, if a neighbor has a situation, they park in their driveway, okay, if it's not bothering the neighbors. But if you're changing the code, the law to say this is okay, you're going to, have people just taking even more of a little step over that line. So I really discourage it. I've called, half a dozen of the villages. I did call Palos Heights, they haven't called me back. But they've all said, no, we don't allow any kind of commercial vehicles parked overnight in our village. And it's because it looks bad. And the more that we open up to allow, for a very couple of situations to say, yeah, it's okay for everybody, look at what's here today. Look at all these people here today.
I think we're using different terminology, and maybe there's just some confusion.
Could be.
It's not, we're not allowing, as Joe said, commercial vehicles. We're actually trying to get to the spirit of what you just said to us, which is, if we don't have a problem with our neighbor having their pickup truck in their driveway because they have a special circumstance, they're an electrician and they need their pickup truck in their driveway, their wife wants to park in the garage, then the neighbors kind of let that happen.
Right,
What
sure.
we're saying is, today, there is, the ordinance on the book says that we should fine them and that we should, harass these people. And we don't have the time and the effort to harass these people. Instead, we want our code to adhere to the spirit of what you just said a moment ago. That's what we're trying to do.
I still don't know. Well, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I think what you're,
It's got to be a passenger vehicle.
It's
It must
gotta
be a passenger vehicle. That's the
Joey's
difference.
trucks,
Now, but you don't have enough people to look at it now. How are you going to have enough people to look at it when they're parking all over?
I do agree with that.
Egregious examples and violations that are occurring today do get dealt with, sir. They do get, egregious violations of it do get dealt with. Because we want to get to the spirit of what she just said. It is very much a spirit.
was that, no, what I said the spirit was, is if you have a neighbor that has a, small vehicle with a sign in the yard, and, well, okay, you understand, you look the other way maybe. But my concern would be, again, opening that up to say, okay, we're going to find this acceptable. I've seen it, believe me, I've seen it, and I know Bob, the enforcement guy, real well, because I've had to call on a number of things in the village, and they do get resolved, but I feel like you're opening up that window, and I don't think the results are going to be what we want, so.
And I'm just going to jump right in. Thank you, Denise.
You already
This
have the
is
floor.
Ronette McCart.
Wait a minute. You already had the floor. There's the
Oh,
you're
I just,
trying to
if I can
no.
say one thing about Denise. Okay, I'll wait till, okay, I'll wait till the end.
Time to you if you want. Go ahead.
No.
Thank you. I just wanted to say for Denise, And Jay, what you were saying, I think that there are a number of individuals within the community that follow the rule in regards to commercial vehicles and know that we just can't park there. No one wants my husband to bring his commercial vehicles home. No one wants to see those in our driveway. We follow the rules. There's other people like myself too. So I agree with Denise, it should not be opened up. We should leave it as it is. We also, there are other things that we don't enforce in the village because we have rules for them, but we say we don't have the manpower to do so. We're not going to go changing all of those. Leave it how it is.
I'll keep mine short since I gave some of my time to her. Luke O'Toole, 12345 South 82nd Avenue. Been here many, many times over the last 22 years. Family moved here a long time ago, so won't get into that. I've dealt with the Village of Palos Park many, many times. A lot of things have not been addressed yet, so I won't get into that. The issue that I have is that this is a village, a bedroom community. You know, you guys are trying to make this into a City of Orland Park. I remember doing that many years ago when we spent a lot of money to hire somebody to do all this stuff, the studies for all the different properties that are around Palos Park about what we were going to rezone it as from this to that. And you guys now are rewriting it again. Why? There's no reason to. This is Palos Park. This is not Orland Park. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Pat Jones. I live at 12331 South 80th Avenue, and I just wanted to explain that the village historically would zone property R1A, highest and best use. As you said, the code now still reads that when anything is annexed, it comes in R1A, and the village always felt that it keeps the door closed tight. If it, as this gentleman said, we're a bedroom community. If somebody comes in and wants a rezoning, it requires a public hearing, and we start at the top to consider anything other than R1A. So it gave us the most protection. And the biggest consideration is compatibility. When considering any kind of new development or rezoning, compatibility with our vision here, long-term vision has always been to protect the environment. The natural features were unique in our ravines, our hills, and everybody loves Palos Park and wants to see it stay that way, and I know you're working towards that, and we're glad to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
I'm back.
Well,
On these small
make it
buildable
short.
lot- What?
Make it short.
Yeah, different subject, small buildable lots. Isn't there a square footage requirement for the structure that's going on a smaller buildable lot? And if there isn't, then why don't you just set up let's say 18,000 square foot lot, right? Buildable lot. Then it's got to have a minimum of X amount of square footage structure on it, whether it's ranch or two-story or whatever. How's that for a solution on that, huh?
That's exactly what
We're going to take a look
But he's
at
not
it.
saying the square footage of the lot versus the square footage of the structure. That's
exactly
never
what I
been
suggested.
mentioned.
I think-
All right? I mean, state it, black and white, right here.
I
You've got an
suggested that.
18,000 square foot lot, you want to build on it, you can only build, you know what I'm saying? And that's the only size you're building, okay? Maybe that'll keep everybody happy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Before you speak, are there anybody behind you? Are you the last one?
I'm not sure.
Okay, you're the
So just
last one.
quick question, so the cemetery, we didn't go over that on the map?
Oh, I apologize if I skipped that. Go ahead.
So is that you're trying to rezone that still?
That would be proposed to have the open space zoning.
Because the first time I was here, I bought my house 16 years ago, we were fighting putting the crematorium there.
Sure.
So that's kind of makes me nervous that you guys are trying to zone that as open so that we can get that back in there.
Well, we can look again at the list of uses that are allowable in the open space district.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, my name is Adrienne Jackie. I'm at 9101 West 121st Street. I have to admit, I haven't really taken time to really articulate what I'm going to say, but my concern is with enforcement and that last comment about not really having enough resources for certain things. I'm concerned about that, and mostly it's because I get in this situation with neighbors where there's certain things that I'm not tolerant of, I guess, and call the village and want something addressed. But then that neighbor, in all fairness, is driving around and seeing other neighbors are okay with certain things that are, they don't call or they don't. So it's just puts rifts with neighbors if code isn't followed across the board. And I guess I just want to caution those thoughts because I'm not really a difficult person, but it's really hard to work with a neighbor that pushes the envelope. And then, it's hard to make a case when they're driving around saying, well, were they allowed to do that? And it's only because the neighbors didn't have a problem with it. So just a thought.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, Adrian.
Hi, Ralph Jones again. Just had one question. Mark said he issued a building permit for an 18,000 square foot lot. Hypothetically.
Hypothetically.
I thought you said you did.
I don't believe that's what I said. I apologize. I was just speaking in hypotheticals.
Okay, I didn't catch that hypothetical
apologize.
word on there,
Okay.
but okay.
All right. You've spoken already.
I just want to help you out with the commercial vehicle thing. Why don't you put it by plate size? B plate and above can't park on the streets.
We did.
B plate and below can park on the streets. City of Chicago, B plates cannot park on the street. Anything above a B plate cannot park on the street in the city of Chicago at night or before 8 o'clock in the morning. That's all you got to put in the thing. Just follow Cook County's code. Don't put it as commercial vehicles because you got a sign on the side of your vehicle. It's a commercial vehicle. Go by the plate size. That'll solve your
All
problem.
right, thank you.
Thank you.
I believe we've heard from everybody tonight, and we will continue this meeting until a date certain.
I know it's getting a little late, it's already after 9:30, but are there a few items that the Plan Commission specifically wants to have the consultants and/or staff specifically change and/or look into in a little bit more detail based on the feedback tonight, just to provide some direction between now and the next
Okay.
meeting?
You want to start?
So what I heard today was we need to look at the definitions in any of the business district use cases. Just looking at the definitions and maybe some of them we need to be more specific about what needs to be taken out. I'm pretty sure, unless that happened last weekend, we really never discussed that. And then also the open space and institutional use cases we need to understand and maybe be more specific about what is in the chart and what should be taken out. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. And then the 500 square foot minimum in the legacy lot as well. And then this commercial vehicle. I think those are
Okay.
6 things.
Yeah, I think there's just some uses in the commercial districts that are considered as permitted that would likely need to move to a special permit or maybe even be removed from the districts altogether. I think you alluded to some of that. I don't think we need to.
Financial institutions.
Yeah, like cultural
Look at that,
institutions,
yeah.
Social clubs, things like that.
Yeah.
There's some things that I think we can give feedback to staff and to Arista on for certain, some specifics.
Agreed.
Yeah, it's undoubtedly in the last meeting, we all thought coming out of that the 500 square foot was too small. And tonight we heard an overwhelming bit of evidence that suggests that is significantly too small. And we've heard that maybe it should go to 2,200 square feet, but we've also know that there are homes in this community that are 1,000 square feet. One of the things that when the ZBA was still participating with this process that resonated with me, I've lived here on and off since 1997, that keeping the character of the village is important. And, you know, there are people in this room that live in 1,000-square-foot homes. And I don't know why you would want somebody to be forced to build a 2,200 square foot on your home, on your property if they were to sell it. It doesn't seem fair. It seems to be actually something that makes us not the Village of Orland Park. And so I get it. I hear loud and clear from folks. I'm sorry, I didn't hear it, but I hear the feedback loud and clear, and happy to consider a lot of the stuff that folks
Okay.
have talked to us about tonight.
Motion? Okay. Now, we will, as a board,
So-
seriously consider all these issues and feed them to Arista. I know the 500 square feet, I want to see that reviewed again and increased.
So just as a matter of form, Mr. Chairman, so the next Plan Commission meeting date, which is in November, there are conflicts with multiple folks involved in this process. Plus, it'll allow for some additional time for that review and for the Plan Commission to dig in a little bit deeper in these matters and even possibly offline chat with some folks in the public. So again, that November date does not work. We've explored some alternative dates, and unfortunately, that's not working. So the Plan Commission is going to need to continue this to a date certain. The December Plan Commission meeting date would be what makes the most sense, and that's 12/18. So there needs to be a motion and a second and a vote to continue.
Okay. So that we would continue this meeting, we're not closing it, we're just continuing it to a date certain, which will be December 18th. Okay, so we had a motion and a second?
Just to clarify, there a motion to continue the public hearings to December 18th.
Yes. Hold on one second.
Mark the roll.
Yep. Commissioner Meter,
Yes.
Commissioner Nicarata,
Yes.
Commissioner Roderick,
Yes.
Commissioner Vincent,
Yes.
Chairman Marson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to, well, I can adjourn the meeting, right? Yeah.
Correct, yeah, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn, okay. Okay. All in favor? Nays? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out.